All right, ladies and gentlemen, what is going on? Today we are back. Today it is time to talk about the Minnesota Vikings upcoming matchup on Sunday at 12 o'clock noon Central Time. They are facing the 2-0 Houston Texans. The Minnesota Vikings are 2-0. As you can see, it's just Matt and I. Pretty simple episode we got today. We're just going to talk about the upcoming game, go through our picks and predictions, and that's pretty much it. So, if you guys didn't see, we filmed an episode Sunday after the game, talked about their victory over the 49ers, moved up to 2-0. They are first in the NFC North as of right now. So we will just have to see. It has definitely been a pleasant surprise to start the year. Sam Darnold's been playing very, very well. But with that said, now we look into this upcoming game against the Houston Texans. The Texans are 2-0. In my opinion, probably a pretty consensus is that they're one of the best teams in the NFL. They have a lot of playmakers offensively and defensively. They have a good team, and we'll just have to see what happens. It's probably going to be a competitive game, especially if last week's wasn't, and that gives signs into this one. It'll be competitive. There's some injuries on both sides heading into this game. We'll go over that in a little bit, but I guess I'm not really sure how else to preface it other than it's an exciting game. It's going to be a good one to watch, and I think this is really going to be a prove-it game where we've seen the Vikings beat the Giants, not a very good team, and then we saw them go out there and beat the 49ers in a really good game. I think it's going to be another good prove-it one to see how well they can play against a good team and whether they're legit or whether they're just pretenders.
Just like you said, this is really are we a contender, are we a pretender, or are we somewhere in between? Do we keep it close, so to say? San Francisco was not at full strength, and they were just missing Christian McCaffrey. Potentially, the Houston might be missing some players, but from the looks of it, they're going to be a full-strength team. So, again, this is another game to see where do the Vikings stack up amongst the rest of the league and to really show everyone that they can be a team to reckon with in the NFC with Sam Darnold at quarterback. The biggest thing with Sam Darnold is in his first two games, as good as he's been, he's had one possession that's just had a very odd turnover where you're just scratching your head, or he makes that one decision in week 2 where he threw the ball, and which basically would have ended up being like triple, quadruple coverage. So it's just eliminating that one turnover because you can't do that against a team like Houston. And the offense that they have, the defense needs to step up huge. This is going to be their biggest test of this early in the season. It's just a very exciting game, and I'm just excited to see how it goes. And if everyone can stay healthy like we all want, I mean, you and me at least, we want everyone in there healthy from both teams. So it'll be a fun afternoon matchup.
That was excellent. You talked about limiting turnovers and Sam Darnold and that kind of stuff. Last week they were able to still win the game. Definitely were not perfect at all. They have things that they can work on and clean up. They had the 2 turnovers. There was the Darnold bad pick to Fred Warner. They had
and then Aaron Jones fumble on the goal line.
Oh yeah,
that's the last place you want to turn the ball over in the red zone, and that was like twice.
Like you were just saying,
I will call it twice.
Yeah, and like you were just saying, if you want to like win a Super Bowl, go up against the contenders like that, you have to play turnover-free football. Probably not 100% perfect, but you got to be as close to perfect as possible to go toe-to-toe with some of the top teams in the league. And the Vikings were able to win last week, even while still making some mistakes. But then again, San Francisco made some mistakes too. So really it evened out. So we'll see this week if they can do that as well. Sam Darnold has played not flawlessly, but
He's played very well, though.
Very, very well.
You got to give the man credit.
Very well through the first 2 weeks of the season. And it seems like really the only mistakes he's made, you can fix them. Those are things that you can teach. Like, exactly like that interception. He could have just hung onto the ball. They were in the red zone. Don't need to force it.
Don't force it if you don't.
Yeah.
If you're not sure.
And I don't remember what down it was. If it was early.
I think it was a second down throw.
Yeah, even if it's like early in the count, it's not count. That's more baseball.
I know what you're talking about.
Early in the downs, it's okay if honestly, I mean, obviously you don't ever want to take a sack in the red zone, but you'd rather take a sack or something like that than have a turnover, which is what happened. So
And you
limiting
guys,
those kind of plays.
and you got to get credit that the man's being aggressive because teams like San Francisco, you're not going to win by kicking field goals in the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yeah, he's trying to force the ball downfield, but it's just a little bit of situational awareness, read the field, understand like the scenario in the game. You have a little bit of a lead, and they don't have any momentum. Don't let them get back into the game off of a interception that you just can, not saying take a sack, but just
Mm-hmm.
don't take your team out of field goal range if you're going to
Yeah.
take a sack. Don't force anything into the field. It will be big with this Texans game is just winning the field position and sustaining drives, even if they don't go for touchdowns, getting a couple first downs on each drive, being able to flip the field, give your defense a better chance than giving an offense like Houston short fields to work with. That's just going to plague the Vikings if that happens. So
Mm-hmm.
being able to win the game with special teams will be huge. It needs to be a well-rounded team effort if they want to get it done.
Yeah, one thing I thought that you just said that was excellent was you were talking about how Sam Darnold's just kind of airing it out and taking risks. And I think as I was, as we know, the Kirk hater on this podcast, I think one thing I criticized was just that Kirk Cousins didn't take many risks. He was playing like some things, maybe this is a cliche term you hear around. Sam Darnold is playing to win, whereas Kirk Cousins played not to lose. He wasn't willing to take a risk because sometimes it does result in an interception, sometimes it does result in a bad play, but sometimes, like we saw on like the Justin Jefferson big touchdown that happened, sometimes you have to take a risk in order for it to pay off. If Kirk Cousins was still a quarterback of this team, I'll be honest, I don't know if he would have thrown that ball into the corner. He was getting pretty much double covered with the safety. Granted, the safety made a mistake on the play, but I don't know if Kirk would have done that. That's something I like about Sam Darnold's play is that he's just kind of airs it out, and sometimes bad plays are going to happen, but more often than not, great plays are going to happen too. So,
I mean, you don't like incompletions, but on a deep ball like that, you want to overthrow it. You don't want to underthrow your receivers, although that can lead to a pass interference. Most of the time, if you end up underthrowing that pass, it's going to be an interception.
if it's single coverage, then you have a chance at a pass interference call or something like that. If it's double coverage, then it's probably more of a dangerous play. But I mean, that throw, have you seen some of the end zone angles from that? Dude, that was a crazy throw from Sam Darnold. Hit him right on the money for probably about 50 yards in the air. And now we can see. I think that play really helped me to see this is why this guy was the third overall pick a few years back. Obviously, it hasn't panned out, but he's got the talent and he's got he's super athletic, got the arm strength, got the talent. It's just some mental issues on the field that he's had issues with, but it seems like so far Kevin O'Connell's done a good job through 2 weeks of being able to unlock that.
Yeah, and I mean, when you talk about risk too, he's taking smart risks like that throw to Jefferson. The ones that you need to reconsider the ones where you throw it to Fred Warner. And I couldn't remember how the first interception went, but to be honest, the game kind of fell out of reach, so you can take a risk. And your defense was playing so well to begin with. So it's just eliminating that turnover or a throw that's just going to leave your head scratching. He's smart enough. It's just a matter of, staying within himself. And I think he's fully understood that he doesn't need to be the superhero. He doesn't need to make every single play possible. He's got weapons around him that'll make him better. And he's going to get weapons coming back after the bye week with Hawk. And who knows if Addison comes back this Sunday. So he's going to have more weapons. He's going to be more dangerous. His offense is going to be better. And just eliminating the crucial turnovers is just going to be huge here.
Yeah, this is a game where I'm excited to see this Brian Flores defense where we saw a little bit against the Giants, but they didn't do a whole lot because it was the Giants offense. Last week, the defense was excellent with different looks, pressures, making plays everywhere. This week, I'm excited to see that too against another good team. Obviously, the Niners were a good team. Texans are an excellent team as well. So excited to see how they can rattle CJ Stroud because he's an inexperienced player. I mean, he's been very good, but he's only been in the league 2 years. So that he's not like Tom Brady or Patrick Mahomes, who've been in the league for numerous years now. He's still young and he's still learning on how to get better. So this is a good opportunity for Flores again, especially pressuring CJ Stroud with how many playmakers they have. They got Tank Dell, Nico Collins,
Diggs.
Diggsy down at honestly like wide receiver 3 right now for that team. Also, random kind of a side street. Do you think Diggs is going to get booed, or do you think he's going to get praised at US Bank Stadium?
I if it was me, I would applaud him. I feel like it's just been long enough. You can let it go.
Yeah.
Now I don't know how the rest of the Minnesota faithful will feel about it. Now, if it was Mike Zimmer coming back to Minnesota, I'd boo him.
Oh, the boos would go off.
That's just me. I like Diggs. I always have. I was upset things didn't work out, and probably the best thing why I feel that way is because immediately after him, Justin Jefferson showed up.
Yeah.
So to take away from that little bit of anger that your best player wants to leave you.
I think, yeah, if, like you were saying, if Jefferson wouldn't have panned out, a lot more people would have less hatred isn't the word, but in a way it's hatred toward him because it would have looked like they just traded away their best player and now you have a big gap that you weren't able to successfully fill. But that worked so well. Danielle Hunter's for sure going to get an ovation from people because he was an excellent player here for however many years he was here. Diggs is kind of hit or miss because he was an excellent player, has probably the greatest play in Vikings history was in his name, but also he had some, wasn't always the most team guy, wasn't always the most likable guy either, forced his way out of this team. I think that he would be not, I don't know if more likable makes sense here, but I think people just don't like him also because it's his character. Like he did the same thing in Buffalo. He forced his way out of there because he was unhappy with it. And I feel like he's probably going to do that same thing in Houston. It's just a matter of time. If he's buried in the depth chart like this, he's going to cry and complain about the fact that he doesn't get the ball. And he's going to go to somewhere else.
Yes, but I feel like Diggs might be at the certain point of his career where it's all about getting the ring. Mm-hmm. He's had all the personal accolades as a receiver. He's regarded as one of the best receivers in the NFL, even if he is buried on the depth chart. Diggs is getting older, so his productivity might start seeing a decline. Mm-hmm. And maybe it's because what Buffalo did decide to run the ball a lot. Maybe it is he's getting older, but again, I think he's still a great receiver. He even a best wide receiver 3, if you really want to think about that. I would think he's more wide receiver 2 behind Nico Collins.
Yeah.
But he understands that if he wants to win, this is the team to do it with, and this is his best opportunity.
Yeah. Like you were saying, still a good player, but he is 30 years old now. So he kind of does have to just understand that you can definitely still be productive, but you're probably not going to be a wide receiver 1 in this league at 30 years old anymore.
Especially on a team like Houston.
Yeah, especially on a team that has a lot of weapons and playmakers, and a team that, for the most part, Houston's a young team. They have a lot of young players and pieces. So I think, like you were saying, in a way, it's almost like, but not quite, Adam Thielen, where like Adam Thielen chased the money and chased the targets and the play, but it didn't really work out for him because now he's stuck in a crappy Carolina situation. Maybe if Diggs would have just accepted the fact that he's not the same player anymore that he was when he was 25 and kind of just plays to win almost now instead of just trying to be too competitive, if that makes sense. Adam Thielen and Diggs are definitely different in a lot of ways. I love Adam Thielen. I did when he was a Viking. Now he's a little bit different, but in a way they're kind of similar situations, but we'll just have to see. You mentioned injuries. That is definitely a huge deal in this one. Jordan Addison didn't play last week, did not practice yesterday either from an ankle injury. I'd bet he doesn't play this week, but we'll just have to see. I'd be a little surprised if he did, but you never know. We will see. Brian O'Neill didn't practice. I think he was also questionable going into the game, and he played, so he'll probably be all right. Dallas Turner didn't practice, but it sounds like he's day-to-day. And then Jefferson, Pace, Van Ginkel, Bradbury, Aaron Jones, were all limited. Justin Jefferson, I would expect him to play in this game, whether he's 100% or plays 100% of the snaps. Maybe not. Maybe he'll be on more of a snap count. But even him being on the field for 3/4 of the snaps is still so impactful on this team. I think he'll at least give it a go, but obviously his long-term health is the most important thing that we have here. But yeah, like from a defensive standpoint, even if your number one player, a player like Justin Jefferson, one of, if not the best wide receiver in the NFL, even at not 100%, him being on the field still changes the defensive look because they still have to account for that player. So we'll just have to see what happens. As far as Houston is concerned,
a lot of did not practices.
Yes, they had a lot of players. Chris Boyd, former Vikings legend, did not practice. I think he just gets special teams reps, but you never know. Nico Collins also did not practice. Joe Mixon didn't practice. He's kind of looked at as toss-up in this game, whether he'll play or not. Damian Pierce didn't practice, and Juice Scruggs didn't. Is Juice Scruggs a starter on their team? I remember him coming out of the draft.
I think so, or he's a depth guy.
I was going to say, he's got to be either a starter or backup because I remember all the hype coming out of the draft. So both teams have players out, or at least not practicing. Whether players play or not, we'll just have to see if some guys are dinged up. That'll definitely be a big story.
If no Mixon or Pierce, it'll be Cam Akers leading the backfield.
Yeah, that'll be quite the running back room if they can't play. So that's something to watch for them. For the Vikings, it's receivers. It's definitely the thing to watch. Where do you want to segue next? Do we have more about this game, or should we just keep trying?
I think we can go to picks, to be honest.
Absolutely. Should we do picks or predictions first?
We can do picks.
All righty. Here is the spreadsheet coming up in a moment. I just clicked the wrong button. There we go. That's predictions, but we're going to picks, folks. So here is our picks. This is how it wound up.
Yeah, it did not go well for a lot of us.
So that was last week.
Upset still last week.
Just 1 second. The door people are here, so I'll let you take over for a quick moment.
I appreciate that. Obviously, Buccaneers beating the Lions. I guess they shouldn't have come as too much as a surprise, but we always thought the Lions were this elite team. They'll bounce back. I have no doubt about that. Obviously, Baltimore losing was shocking. They're 0-2. They have a big game with Dallas, trying to avoid going 0-3 to start the season. Jacksonville had a little bit of a collapse. Offensively, they only had 15 passing yards in the first half. After renaming Citizens Bank Field Trevor Bank Stadium. I don't even remember it might not even be Citizens Bank, but I know they named it Trevor Bank. That did not go well. I guess an upset, San Francisco losing to our Minnesota Vikings because we had so much faith in them. We picked San Francisco. Cardinals manhandling the Rams, who are 0-2 and have now lost Puka and Cooper Kupp to the IR. And the Eagles had a all-time collapse on Monday Night Football, and Kirk Cousins leading a great drive to get the Falcons to 1-1. Big game coming up for them on Sunday night. We now segue into week 3 tonight. We got Patriots and Jets. Let's see who we picked.
Here we go.
We're both going Jets. I think their defense is just good enough. I think Patriots will come out and play hard. It'll be a low-scoring game, but at the end of the day, I think Aaron Rodgers and the running back duo of Braylon Allen and Breece Hall is just going to be a little too much here.
Mm-hmm. I like the experience that the Jets have here with Aaron Rodgers. The Patriots are just still a super unexperienced team right now. They played well in week 1. They played well in week 2. They've kept it close, but I just think the Jets at home on a short week with more tenure on their team, I'd take the Jets here. Also, pardon me, there's a person at our apartment right now that's changing out some of the locks, so there might be some background noise to anyone watching, just so you guys are aware, but I'll try to limit with what I can here. So hopefully the other guys get their picks in on time. Otherwise, to the Sunday games. If you were having fun and if you want to keep being the lead, you can if you want. Otherwise, I'll do it.
I'll lead if you don't want background noise.
It's up to you.
I got you. We're both going to New Orleans. They've been very hot. 2 back-to-back 40-point games. I don't know if they're going to keep up that torrid pace in week 3, but I think it'll be enough to get past the Eagles.
Yeah, I considered taking either team here. Philadelphia, I mean, they should have probably won, but they didn't. I thought about taking Philly because Sirianni's going to want them to get back into form to pick up a win here against a Saints team that's been excellent, but they've been putting up like 45 points per game. I'm going to keep picking them till I see them say otherwise this surprising stretch. So give me the Saints in this one.
Pittsburgh, I mean, both teams are 2-0. Chargers a little bit of a surprise. I think it'll be a low-scoring game because every Pittsburgh Steelers game is that way. I think the Steelers defense just does enough.
Yeah, I went with the Steelers too. It's hard to bet against Mike Tomlin at home. They're 2-0 to start the year, so I have to see it from these Harbaugh-led Chargers before I can really buy stock into them. Onwards we go.
Not much to say here. It's the Giants. He scored 3 touchdowns, allowed no touchdowns, and still lost. I think this is a game for the Browns to try to figure something out and inflate that win total.
I thought about going with the Giants in this one because the Browns have been, I'd say, a pretty big letdown this year. But the Giants are also the Giants. So we're going to take the Browns at home to get their season back on track finally. Who do the Browns play next week? That's going to be a big game.
Raiders.
Yeah, that's going to be a big game for that Browns team to see if they can salvage this season.
I think Caleb Williams right now in the offense still isn't going to click. They're not going to find their groove. And I think Anthony Richardson, after that 3-interception game, is going to do a little bit better of not turning the ball over, and Indy's going to get away and find a way to win.
Yeah, I also could have gone either way here. I ended up going with the Chicago Bears. They lost pretty close game, I guess, to the Texans on Sunday night last week. I think that they kind of need a win to prove that we've been hearing all offseason that they could be a team to watch, but I think this is kind of a game they need to prove that they have a chance at making a playoff push. Whereas the Colts last week, who did the Colts play? I'm trying to remember. Who did the Colts play? Oh, they played the Packers and lost. They also, yeah. I mean, they just ran the ball the whole time. The Packers did, but if they can't stop the run, I think the Bears might see that and try and do the same thing against them. So I ended up going with the Bears. Caleb Williams just seems so inexperienced, and he is, but he just needs time to learn.
Baker Mayfield's looked pretty good living up to his contract. I think they'll continue to roll over the Broncos.
Yeah, I also went with the Bucs here. I've been surprised, honestly, by the Bucs this season. I didn't expect them to be a super great team. They played well against the Lions. Trying to remember who the Bucs even played in week 1. Oh, yeah, they beat the Commanders. So they're 2-0 to start the year. It's been a surprise, and the Broncos are not good right now. The Sean Payton, Bo Nix is a rookie quarterback, and you can tell by watching him. So this is a game the Bucs should be able to win, and we both have them winning this one. Next up, Packers and Titans.
The Will Levis Bowl. I think Tennessee figures it out. I don't think Will Levis is going to have a good back-to-back weeks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Levis didn't do a whole lot for the Packers last week, but they just grounded and pounded the ball and they were able to win the game. The Titans aren't a super great team. This is another one where I think the Packers, if they do what they did last week, they have a chance of success. I don't know what Jordan Love's timeline is. I've been hearing from Kahar that it's moving up, but I don't know if that's true.
I would think hopefully next week when they play the Vikings, they hope to have him back.
Because originally I heard like 4 to 6 or 3 to 6 weeks, but now he's been saying it's moving up, but I haven't verified that. So we'll see if he can play against Minnesota next week. As we move on, we've got the game of the week, everybody, the Texans and the Minnesota Vikings.
We're
And
about to
both
go
of
in
us
Houston.
are
I
haters.
think Houston just has more offensive firepower, and that's really what's going to propel them.
On the same boat here. They have more playmakers. The Vikings have definitely been impressive, as we've said, through 2 weeks. If they win this game, then I think I'll be more convinced that this team can go toe to toe against some really good teams and they might actually be a contender. But I need to see them do it one more time after San Francisco. I need to see them do it again against Houston. So if they can do it this week, then I think I'll be actually buying some stock on this team. So we'll see. Guarantee big lose pick in the Vikings. Well, now we got the late slate of games starting with Detroit and Arizona. I went with a surprise here.
Yeah, I feel like you could go either way. I think Detroit wants to bounce back after a bad showing at home. Go on the road and beat Arizona.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've been impressed with the Cardinals through 2 weeks so far. I didn't think they were going to be that great of a team heading into this season. I mean, Marvin Harrison Jr. really broke out last week, and their offense came alive, scoring 40 points or almost 50 points last week against the Rams, who I thought was going to be a good team this year. And so that was that. Detroit, to me, they're definitely still a very good team. They have great players. Dan Campbell, I think, is an excellent coach. But so far, it's been only 2 weeks, so small sample size. I haven't been super impressed with the Lions through 2 weeks yet. They squeaked out a win over the Rams, but just barely. And then last week they lost to the Bucks, and really, they weren't winning really that entire game. So this is another one where I think it could be a surprise. The Cardinals are at home. They could kind of shock the world almost a little bit in this game. So I have them doing it, but we'll just have to see. Moving on, we got the Dolphins and the Seahawks. Both of us going Seattle.
No Tua. It sounds like Tyler Huntley will most likely be elevated to start. If not, it'll be Skylar Thompson. That's not going to do it against Seattle.
Do the Dolphins play the Ravens this year? I want to see if Tyler Huntley gets to play his team. I don't think they do. No, it doesn't look like they play this year. But yeah, it's just tough to tell the Dolphins with Tua out. So we will just have to see what happens and see what happens with that situation. Moving forward, we've got the Ravens and the Cowboys. This looks like it'll probably be a pretty good game. Two teams that haven't been very impressive to start the year.
Baltimore needs this win really bad. And obviously, when you look at the Dallas, they can't fall to 1-2. So both teams, this is really a must-win game. And for Baltimore to start 0-3, you're going to draw a lot of criticism. Lamar's going to probably get a lot of blame from the fans. After an embarrassing loss to the Raiders, they're going to have fire in their gut, like Jonathan Gannon would say, and they're going to I think they're going to take it to Dallas. I mean, because New Orleans did, and they're going to follow that same blueprint, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. The Ravens need a win. I feel like almost both teams kind of need a win here. The Ravens are 0-2 to start the year. They've been very disappointing. I mean, week 1, they played the Chiefs, and it was a close game. Could have gone either way. But last week, losing to the Raiders, which no one really expected. Whereas to me, maybe it's too early in the season to say this, but I think Mike McCarthy's on the hot seat. They've been close for however many years now, quite a few years, but they've never been able to put it over the top. they aren't even like at that level anymore. They're have a chance if they continue playing like they did last week. They could just miss the playoffs, honestly, which to the Cowboys would be a huge failure on the season. I think Mike McCarthy needs to win this game, so we'll just have to see what happens here. I could see that going either way, though. Panthers and the Raiders, kind of a sad game that we got on Sunday.
Yeah, Andy Dalton getting the start, but I think Vegas again is going to try to inflate their win total, get them to a nice 2-1 on the season, and create false hope.
Yeah, even with Bryce Young getting benched and Andy Dalton starting, I'd still say the Panthers, are the worst team in the NFL. So they have to prove anything before I'm going to pick them to win. I'm sure I probably never picked them last season to win a single game. Maybe someday I'll go back and see if that was true or not. Probably going to be the same thing this year. I will probably pick them 0 times. Maybe they'll win at least one, though. So there we go. Moving on. Good one here. We got the Niners and the Rams, 2 teams that have been a bit of a disappointment to start the season. Both of us going San Fran.
Rams are just too injured right now. Really the reason I went with San Fran.
That's really tough having both Puka and Cooper Kupp both out. So yeah, I went San Fran. They need to right the ship after their game last week against Minnesota, and here's a good opportunity for them to do it against an injury-plagued Rams team. Moving forward, we got Clutch Kirko playing on Sunday night against the Kansas City Chiefs.
It's Patrick Mahomes. You can't doubt him on Sunday night with Chris Collinsworth calling the game.
Yeah, I once said never bet against Mahomes, and I will live by that statement until the day I die. I just can't see Kirk Cousins going toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes in a shootout. Mahomes is just better in every way. This is the type of game Viking fans are going to watch. And here's where we're going to really see if Kirk can win big games or not, going up against the defending Super Bowl champions. Can he put up 300 yards and 2 touchdowns and lead his team to a win, or is he going to fold under the prime time against a good team? We're just going to have to see what happens. So that's going to be an intriguing game Sunday night. And we follow it up with a Monday night doubleheader, starting off with the Jags and the Bills. To no surprise, we both took
Jacksonville's been very disappointing. I feel like Doug Peterson is on the hot seat. If not him, Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, is going to get the boot after this game if they do not perform well on the offensive side. And Buffalo has looked really good for the first 2 weeks. Had a nice shootout win against Arizona and then backed it up on a Thursday night beating Miami. Obviously, Tua got knocked out of that game in the third quarter. Buffalo has an opportunity to prove that they don't need Diggs. All you need is Josh Allen.
Yeah, I was hesitant on the Bills after week 1, but even excluding the Tua injury, I still think they played very well, and it was a game they needed to win. And the Jaguars have just been, like you said, they've just been a disappointment. Someone's got to be on the hot seat there. It just hasn't been going right, and it's been like 3 years now where they've had expectations, but they just can't do it. So they need to put it together or else someone is getting the boot. So we're going with the Bills. Jaguars need to prove it for me to take them in any game. The Commanders and the Bengals to close out our week number 3 slate. Ooh, we got a divide here.
I have not liked what I've seen from Cincinnati, although they did look a lot better last week with Jamar Chase actually practicing a lot and getting his rapport back with Joe Burrow. I don't know what it is about this game. I feel like this is going to be a little bit of a stunner. I think Washington, they need to do better in the red zone. You can't kick 7 field goals every game and expect to win. You don't play the Giants every week. You play them twice a year. I've liked what I've seen from Jaden Daniels, though. He is very exciting. And last thing I want to see him is take a big hit in the open field. He's got to protect himself.
Yeah, Commanders have been, I guess, not super great, but all right. But they're still a building team. Jaden Daniels, like you said, he's still learning. He's a young guy, but he's definitely been showing some flashes. The Bengals have been super disappointing through 2 weeks, and I think I've been seeing stats around like they're like 1 and whatever in weeks 1 and 2 since Joe Burrow's been there. They've been awful. This is where they're gonna finally pick up a win. They need to make the playoffs, and if they don't win this game, they could be a serious. I mean, they'd fall to 0-3 and be a serious threat of not making the playoffs at all, which would be a catastrophic fail on the season, I think. So this is a game the Bengals must win, whereas the Commanders, obviously you want to win, but it's not like a must win because they don't really have any expectations. So that's our picks right here, folks. Going up here, we've got our standings right now. Those are the updated ones as of last week. Sam Z is currently in the lead, followed by Big Lou and I, followed by Matt and Sam O at the bottom at 50% right now. That was how we finished last year. Moving forward, we have our predictions over here. It's just me and Matt. Nothing came off the board since last week's episode, so going forward, we move. I did say the Vikings would go undefeated in alternate uniforms this Sunday, and this week or this year. None of the first two things I said. We have our first crack at that on Sunday with them wearing the classics, so we will just have to see. I guess.
Just rip them out.
Should we whip off all three?
Yeah.
All right. I'll just kick it off with my first one here, and then I'll keep moving. First prediction, Justin Jefferson will have a catch of at least 35 yards or more against the Houston Texans. He put up a 44-yarder against the Giants, put up the 97-yard bomb last week against the Niners. I think he's going to do it again. Darnold loves throwing the ball long. It's what he's best at, is throwing the ball long. They're going to find a hookup of at least 35 or more this week. Write that one down. Moving forward, my second prediction, J.J. McCarthy will blow the Yaller horn at a Vikings game this season. We've been seeing, it was Mike Conley last week. I'm not sure who it is this week yet. I don't think they've announced, at least this morning when I looked, they hadn't announced it yet. With him hurt, they did it with Kirk Cousins last year. They're going to do it with J.J. McCarthy this season. He will blow the Yeller horn. Last but not least, we're transitioning to another sport. The Minnesota Twins will miss the 2024 postseason. They've been on a catastrophic decline. They had a big lead. They looked locked into the postseason, and now they're only heading into today. They're only a half game ahead of the Detroit Tigers for the final wild card spot. They're currently, last I checked, they were up 2-1.
Yep.
Against the
it's 2-1 top 6
against the Cleveland Gardos. So they need wins. They are in the midst of a collapse right now, and they will miss the postseason. I hope they don't, but don't have good feelings about how this season has been going. So there you go. There is my 3 predictions, folks. We'll move over to Matt now.
Okay. A little all over the place with these, but we'll start. Travis Kelce has not had a great start to the year, and he shoulders the blame. This is the breakout game on Sunday night. I think he'll have 2 touchdown catches versus the Atlanta Falcons. My second prediction, we go to college football. Today it was announced Archer Manning will be starting at quarterback for the injured Quinn Ewers. They're facing a cupcake opponent in, hopefully I got that right, Louisiana Monroe. Yep. Anywho, Arch Manning's going to show out. I think he'll throw for 4 touchdowns, really inflate his stats, get a bunch of media hype. ESPN will not stop talking about him for some odd reason. It's just the media world we live in.
Mm-hmm.
Final prediction. We go to Sunday's game against the Texans. I think Aaron Jones will have a breakout game. He had a nice game against the Giants, had that crucial fumble on the goal line. I feel like he wants to make up for that, and he's going to have a nice day. He'll have to if this team wants to win.
Yes. Yeah. This could definitely be a big bounce back.
And then hopefully for my fantasy team.
It sounds like he also had a bit of a hip injury at the end of that game, but he should be good to go. I don't recall if he was on the injury report or not.
He was limited, I think.
Yeah. I'm looking here. I just pulled up. Yeah, he was limited with a hip injury. The injury report for today will come out later this afternoon, so we'll have to monitor the status of a bunch of.
So if he doesn't play, is that prediction just voided then? Or does this just go as a red?
That's a good question. Or what if you just say, unless you don't have this much confidence in Ty Chandler, you could change it to say the Vikings starting running back.
I'll think it over.
Okay, yeah. Otherwise, we can converse. Hopefully, I think he'll play, so
I think it will too.
Shouldn't be an issue, but you never know. There could be, but we can bring it up in the group chat and see what how other people feel about that. So we'll see. I feel like my personal opinion is I feel like it would be red because we did that with all the JJ McCarthy predictions. Everyone who had a JJ McCarthy prediction, unless other people disputed, but no one did when I did it, I just counted them all as red because they didn't have.
Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense.
So I guess that was just what I thought. So if we want to keep it consistent with what we've been doing,
yeah,
it would
keep
be
it consistent. Then that works.
It didn't happen because you're predicting he will play and have that many yards. But
yeah,
if we need, we can discuss. Otherwise, that I believe does it for this episode. Unless you have any closing words for the people, it's going to be a good game.
Food after this, so it's gonna be a nice game tonight too.
Yeah. So yeah, good games this weekend. This is a good slate. Last weekend, not super great overall. This weekend's got some good games, so going to be excited to see that one. Otherwise, that does it for us. So we hope you guys enjoyed our episode today. Have a good evening. Good afternoon. Peace out. As always, SKOL Vikings.
SKOL Vikings.
We will see you guys maybe Sunday, otherwise next week.